committee secretary if there are any apologies.
Chair, I have not received any formal apology, Chair. I'm just making assumption that some people may have connectivity challenges, Chair, and so may still join us. And I will keep you posted if I receive any apology during the course of the meeting. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Or even if any of the members join during the course of the meeting, just for record purposes.
Yeah.
Can we have a move and a seconder for the adoption of the agenda, please? Honorable Mbuyane.
Thank you very much, Chair. I propose that we adopt the agenda as reflected. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any seconders for the adoption of the agenda?
Chair, my hands I'm struggling to raise my hands. I stand to second from Honorable Mbuyane on the adoption of agenda.
Okay, thank you. I think Honorable Umunakedi, your hand is also up to second the adoption of the agenda.
Yes, Chair, I'm fitting the adoption of the agenda.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Yes.
Chairman, Mr. McPherson has also joined the meeting, Chair. Thanks.
Yeah, okay, we'll note that. Welcome Honorable McPherson to our meeting. So members, we are meeting to discuss DTIC, NEF and IDC on the support provided to township economies. So the DTIC has the following targets: 8 billion of financial support to programs to small, medium, and micro enterprises and women and youth empowered businesses. Then they also have 15 billion support programs to enterprises in areas outside the 5 main metro areas, 3 billion in financial support to enterprises, including SMMEs, to mitigate the impact of load shedding through the Energy Resilience Fund. So in this regard, the purpose of our meeting here is to receive that briefing from the DTIC, the NEF and the IDC on the financial and non-financial support programs available to township economies that would contribute towards achieving these output targets. This should include a demographic and a geographical breakdown of past support in relation to township economies where applicable. Then we will also, as the second agenda item, consider minutes at this meeting. So with that, I think from the DTIC, the team is led by the acting DG, Ms. Mabichi Thompson. Can I hand over to you, acting DG, to lead the presentation?
Recording in progress.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning to members. May I ask that the presentation be flighted? Thank you. I think, Chair, as we're busy with that, just to indicate that we've got a full delegation from the DTIC group, particularly the part of the DTIC that deals with industrial financing. So in the meeting, from the DTIC itself, the department, it's myself. Then there's Susan Mangole in incentives, Tanya van Meerles in transformation and competition. There's Jacob Maputa on the line as well, responsible for transformation. There's also Vasha Harineth, who's responsible for our incentives. From the IDC, the CEO is on the line, TP Nchocho. and the team from the IDC that includes Gerald, Tino Nesta, Joanne Bates, Stuart Barnett, and from the NEF, it's the CEO, Pilisiwe Mthethwa, with a team from the NEF, Nhlanhla Nyembe, who's responsible for SME and rural and community development, Zama Kanyile, responsible for venture capital and corporate finance, Mzi Daimane, who's the general counsel, and the Sia Gogo, responsible for planning and investment. There may be other colleagues that I have missed, but just to indicate to the committee that from the DTIC group, both CEOs are in on the platform, and a number of key officials to come and brief the committee. Chair, I will just ask that I turn off the video now, just to make sure that we don't have any interruptions, and then I'll go straight into the presentation.
Thank you. You may do so.
Thank you, Chair. The presentation is in line with what the committee had requested us to come and present to the committee, which was the work that we are doing in township economies as it regards financial support. Fasha, if you can move. Next slide, please. I'm not sure if it's just from my end. The slides don't seem to be moving.
No, the slides are not moving. I don't know if the person who's sharing the slide has connectivity problems.
No connectivity problems, but I can't. Let me try and put it onto the other mode and see then if it can move, because it's refusing to move on my side.
Okay.
There we are.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Chair. So the presentation will cover 7 areas. What we are seeking to address in terms of challenges in the townships, looking at how we are wanting to do that through the 6 pillars of the reimagined industrial strategy. Again, being very specific in terms of the actions the DTIC is putting in place. And then we're going to just go into the kind of support that we have already provided, including some of the examples that will illustrate the support. And those examples, Chairperson, are really a snapshot of a whole big work program. So we don't purport to that what is in the presentation actually reflects everything that the DTIC, including the NEF and the IDC are doing. Then we will share with the committee some of our plans going forward. Next slide. Basha? So I think in the first slide, what we are reflecting on are some of the challenges that we are responding to. Next slide. So on slide 4, we indicate that townships are really a construct from our past. They were planned and developed to keep Black workers in particular in the periphery of the main economic hub of activities. And in recent times, some of the township economies have become vibrant and thriving economies with no shortages, no shortages of various activities, including salons on the sidewalks, spaza shops, various types of enterprises, including motor vehicle repair shops. However, these economic activities are narrow and not sufficient to impact levels of poverty and unemployment, particularly among the youth, including in the township. So insufficient access to capital that enables businesses to grow has been one of those issues that have been raised as a big impediment for township enterprises to grow. And in particular, it's because enterprises located in townships are generally viewed as high risk by conventional financing institutions. There's also lack of infrastructure, which hamper optimal running of businesses and make it difficult to attract and secure customers, investors, and suppliers on a large scale. Small customer base, that's also a big issue that has been raised, which limit the potential for these enterprises to tap into larger markets and in that way become more innovative, more competitive, and be able to tap into a wider pool of skills that allow the enterprises to grow. And then, of course, the issue of crime and the cost of regulation that may include both national and local government regulations that sometimes are structured in a way that make it very difficult for these enterprises to come up and grow in an unimpeded manner. So with the reimagined industrial strategy, we do see these enterprises and these localities as important parts of our industrial strategy. Therefore, when we reflect on what we want to do with the reimagined industrial strategy, it's also to affirm that we see these enterprises as an important part of the industrial strategy of South Africa. So there are 6 pillars. The first one is to build a new model of growth and economic inclusion that unites South Africans in the economy and promote transformation across provinces, districts, townships, and rural areas. And to achieve this, Chair, the industrial strategy of the DTIC translates into implementation guided by sector master plans, and it involves simultaneous boosting of growth while promoting greater inclusion. The DTIC also aims to expand the number of new firms that are owned and run by Black South Africans, and also to increase industrial output and jobs that are created by Black industrialists across provinces, districts, townships, and even rural areas. Evidence of progress has been presented in the Black industrialist publications that we've made before, and also though that publication shows the type of enterprises that were supported, and that some of them do come from townships. In addition, more active efforts are being made to promote worker ownership in firms and provide mechanisms for the voice of labor to be heard in corporate decision-making structures. Then on the next slide, we recognize that the economy needs a production boost. And for this reason, the department is supporting businesses to build a local industrial capability, both for domestic and export markets. The local industrial effort, called localization for short, is rooted in building both dynamic and inclusive firms and an inclusive economy. In particular, niche tourism, such as typical South African experience in township, is a great way of attracting more people to visit South Africa while generating income for locals and creating jobs in township. When it comes to focusing on increasing the levels and composition of exports through trade with the rest of the world, our trade policy needs to be a source of new jobs and expansion of the industrial economy, and that requires maintaining the department's centers of excellence, including what has already been done in the auto sector, which is a significant employer of a number of people, including those in various townships. And we are mentioning those townships there: Kagiso, Isipingo, Lagazi, Garangua, and Mamelodi right here in Pretoria East. However, the department and its entities need to also develop new and grow current businesses in townships that can globally compete in more labor-intensive value chains, including food processing, clothing, footwear, and in the service sectors as well, the productive service sectors. While some progress has been made, as I'd indicated previously, in some of these areas, from the case studies that we will also present now, we are the first to acknowledge that more work is required. Then when it comes to boosting levels of investment, we are working through coordination and using of various public policy measures to make it possible for enterprises, even in townships, to take advantage of the work that we are doing to improve local procurement of goods and services that are produced in South Africa, and also to promote exports, that these enterprises are part of our export drive. The coordination work that we are doing combine both public measures, such as provision of infrastructure in townships that would attract private investment to locate in townships, and we do these through industrial parks as just one of those initiatives. And then with the development finance institutions that are part of the DTIC, a group of agencies, the Industrial Development Corporation, the National Empowerment Fund, they have set clear targets to increase levels of investment in townships and a greater coordination with the commercial banks, which we know is very much needed in order to augment funding and increase it significantly to enterprises that are located in townships. On the work that we are doing to ensure a more sustainable, reliable, and affordable energy system, while we promote green industrialization and a just transition, of course, we acknowledge that energy is obviously a significant threat to employment, at least the lack of consistent supply of energy. It's a significant threat to employment and industrialization, as well as living conditions for enterprises. And it does hit small enterprises, particularly those that are also in the township, the worst. However, these challenges and the global move towards a less carbon-dependent economic model offers more opportunity for these enterprises to help South Africa and the world avoid worse of the crisis. So even in this transition that we are in, we see a big opportunity for some of the enterprises to also come in and play a constructive role in assisting South Africa with the transition. And then on the work to promote greater levels of employment, all of the pillars of industrial policy, as indicated in our APP, must be geared towards generating more inclusive industrialization overall. The social economy, sometimes called the solidarity economy, can complement traditional industrial strategies to expand job creation. The social economy is prominent in townships, and this includes a myriad of not-for-profit producers, such as cooperatives, non-governmental organizations, and of course, stokvels and public employment schemes. So in terms of our own approach, Chair, I'll just remind the honorable members of the APP outputs that are important for this area of work. Just reminding members that our APP has about 45 outputs. Of those outputs, 10 are core, and we've got 13 programmatic targets, we've got 15 enabling targets, and there's 7 contextual response target. And we did go through this in a lot of detail when Minister tabled the APP to the committee. But in this presentation, we address one aspect of the wider transformation mandate. Within that, we focus on the industrial financing support to businesses, and we also zoom in on businesses that are located in township. More work will be done to collate information. You would recall that in our APP, we do have a KPI for collating information so that we are able to share, we are able to better track the impact of the work that we are doing. And we are also able to assess platforms that need to be created to provide a fuller picture of the work that we are doing and the support that we should be providing to various enterprises. But for the purposes of this presentation, which focuses on townships, our focus is on improving quality of life in the townships. 9 economic instruments promoting transformation. Members of the committee will recall that Minister did go through this. Industrial financing, the one that we will be talking about today, but we've got master plans that drive localization, and there's work on competition settlements, particularly those settlements that allow market access for small enterprises that are located outside the core economic nodes of South Africa. We've got BEE codes and the various charters linked to it. And even under the BEE umbrella, the Equity Equivalent Investment Program, I apologize for that spelling error, the Special Economic and Industrial Parks work program that focuses on spatial distribution of economic activity, and in there we talk about the various special economic zones, industrial parks, and a number of interventions being done at a local level and again outside the core metros, core nodes of economic development. And then the preferential procurement work, and then also work that we are doing on the Black industrialist policy, where we are moving from just economic transformation being limited to exchange of ownership of enterprises to actually creating more enterprises that would then become, would increase the pool from which we get our jobs, our innovation, and the various economic spin-offs that we are targeting in these programs, and then an inclusive worker model. And then with this inclusive worker model, this is some of the work that we are doing to ensure that workers don't only derive benefit for their participation in companies limited to just the salary that they get, that they also become a part of decision making and a core part of the companies to which they give their lives to. And we hope in that way that will assist companies grow better. It will create a better industrial relations environment when the benefits are shared in a more equitable way. And then I think in focusing now on the reason why we are here, the industrial financing work that we do in townships. I'll start by just highlighting to members on slide 19, slide 20, my apologies, that the industrial financing support that the department has provided, we have tracked it from 2016 when we introduced the Black Industrialist Program. From the Industrial Development Corporation, we are tracking it since 2010. And then from the NEF, we are tracking it since 2003. And from that work, about 66 billion, 3 billion of which has supported enterprises that are owned by women, and 1 billion of which has been accessed by enterprises owned by youth. The 66 billion has assisted over 1,000 entities and projects, approximately 120 women and 60 youth-owned enterprises, and these are in and around townships. Just in terms of a breakdown of that, a further breakdown, 60 billion was in the form of loans from the IDC, and these loans supported over 600 entities, creating over 130,000 jobs. Some of the jobs were being saved by the upgrading that would generally come with a loan from the IDC, an injection of working capital that would allow a company to be able to service an order. So from the incentive branch within the DTIC, it's 3.9 billion, and this has supported over 70 entities, and then 2.4 billion in loans from the NEF, and this has supported 390 entities in and around townships. So these are funds that have gone into township enterprises and have sought to address in part the challenge of these enterprises to receive funding that would allow them to grow and allow them to grow in a way that helps them to be more sustainable, given the challenge that they are receiving, particularly from commercial banks, to receive sustainable lines of and predictable lines of funding to be able to plan for their growth and service more and growing orders. So in the slide that follows here, we're just showing the map of South Africa and showing in terms of a provincial breakdown the areas that have received support. Most of the support going to Gauteng and a number of various provinces. We've also indicated some of the townships, the districts that this financing has gone to. And chair members, we want to not only continue to support Gauteng, but to increase our support also in the various provinces, particularly for enterprises in the townships. And then in the slides that would follow, we will begin to unpack the type of work that we are already doing to increase the work that we are doing with these enterprises. So in terms of industries that have been supported, agro-processing, clothing and textiles, steel and metal fabrication, in the retail sector, mining and mineral beneficiation, and then machinery and equipment manufacturing entities have received support. And then what I'm going to then do is then just go straight into the types of funding and some of the case studies that we are presenting to members today, and just indicate to members, as I had said initially, that these are a few of the case studies of the work that the different entities have been doing. And the case studies represent a range of funding which will include the Black industrialist enterprises that were supported. It will also include businesses that we supported which were affected by natural disasters. Members would be aware of the big one of recent in KZN. It includes now social funding to townships, transformation funding in the property and energy sector, the critical infrastructure funding that supports enterprises by unlocking value that lies in the infrastructure that would allow these enterprises to operate better. We are looking there to reduce their operational cost by putting in place infrastructure, sometimes upgrading that infrastructure, which in most instances, when it comes to townships, the infrastructure is not up to grade to support some of the enterprises. And we also are going to show you what we've done with social employment funding and partnership funding in townships as well. Then in terms of the Black industrialist funding, both the DTIC, NEF and IDC have supported over 200 Black industrialist projects. 53 were women-owned, 37 were youth-owned, and they are located in various townships across South Africa. 12.7 billion. 2 billion accessed by women and around $500 million accessed by youth-owned enterprises. We've also supported 27,000 jobs, of which 24,000 were also created and saved. And in this slide that follows, we're just sharing with the members some of the types of enterprises that we have supported. I'm not going to spend a lot of time here, just to indicate that the one here, Lothe, it's FX Group. It's in Lothe Township. This is in Emelo, in Mpumalanga. And this is an enterprise that is creating around or supporting 210 jobs at the factory, as well as about 400 jobs that would have come in when this enterprise was being constructed. And the work that they do includes cutting. They work with a number of enterprises that they would supply their products to. So I'll if you look in the next slide, or I thought the production process was there. Oh, it's coming. In the next slide, you'll just see some of the workers there, and this is just an indication of some of the operations of the company. The next one, Pavati Plastics. This one is in Tembisa, Ekurhuleni. Again, here they are employing about 44 people, and this is after an initial batch of about 50 employees that was part of the establishment that are now in this company. And then you can see the type of work that they do, and they do this work out of Clayville. They were able to receive support of about 29 million rand. And when we give that support, members, we always are focused on upgrading of their equipment in order for them to increase production. We are always concerned about them being able to service orders, because an enterprise that doesn't have orders is an enterprise that's going to die. So we want to make sure that they have orders, and that we are giving them also working capital to service the orders. And most of the funds that they receive is actually in the form of loans. So they will have to pay back a large part of the investment funding that they would receive from the 3 institutions in the DTIC that does this work. And then in the slides that follows, it's just to show the workers there. And then I move on to ATL blow molders in Soweto, in Economies, in Johannesburg, and again employing 73 people, and they are projected to create another 45 new jobs, and they were supported to grow their enterprises. This business has sustained average growth rates of 23% over the last 9 years. And hence they've been able to secure jobs for workers from the nearby townships and informal settlements. And then you can see that the type of products that they are making. And then in the slide that follows, it just shows some of the workers there. Toronto Group is in the Northern Cape. In Mbekweni township. They specialize in manufacturing of eco-friendly quality charcoal, and they're also employing around 85 people. And Toronto Group will be going into production in the first in the fourth quarter, and they have secured 100% of their products for exports. Again, here just showing the Black industrialists who are now exporters of products that are manufactured in South Africa. A very important fact about some of these Black industrialists that they are finding in some instances easier to penetrate markets abroad in relation to markets here, something that is unconventional in the sense that we've always been taught that you have to conquer the domestic market first before you export. But we have seen a number of these Black industrialists just breaking out into export markets and doing very well in those markets. Then another company here in the south coast of KwaZulu-Natal, it's based in Umthwa Lume. and they are also employing 61 permanent staff, and they were provided funding by the IDC, and they are in the business of supplying fabric to the garment manufacturing industry for fashion wear and school wear. So even in some of those sectors that we were told are sunset sectors in South Africa, we see Black industrialists entering those markets, reviving some of those sectors, and that is why it is important that we increase the work that we are doing, because we do need to get jobs from every source that we potentially can be able to get this from. And as we had indicated, the Black industrialist funding comes supplementing funding for all enterprises in the economy. So again, it's that approach of maximizing potential in every area of the economy in order to deal with this issue of unemployment. We're showing there now Dreamland Piggery, and this one is in Vanderbijl Park in Bophelong township. They are employing about 40 people, and they say that they will increase that to about with another 11. And then just showing some of the workers there. And then we go to Abakobi packing, and then this one is in Cosmo City in Deep Slot, and the Kayasend township there. They employ about 14 workers, and they are they produce plastic pharmaceutical bottles that were previously sourced from other manufacturers, and now they are supplying that, and they also received support from the IDC. Then the next one is from Shabani Township, RT Industries. Shabani is in the northwest Rustenburg, and they're also supporting employment of 44 people. So for Formex, Formex is in KwaZakele. KwaZakele is a township in the Eastern Cape. They manufacture extensive range of exhaust systems related components. They also were able to receive support for the expansion projects, and they are now part of the enterprises in South Africa that are employing people. And then TTM T3, this one is in Mongozi and Mbwazana townships. These are in the northern KZN, and the TTM Forestry is a Black-owned forestry company. It represents Tembe, Mabaso, and Mbila tribal authorities. And as I indicated, these are in the KZN areas, and it begins to also show that we also work with companies that are in the very deep rural areas, where, of course, the business case makes sense. And in this instance, they are growing tea trees and distilling tea tree oil for the cosmetic industry. And when it comes to the work that we're doing on social and solidarity funding, over the past 5 years, the Industrial Development Corporation supported 40 township initiatives with funding of around 158 million rand. These were creating 2,500 jobs and impacting about 22,236 beneficiaries. Some of these include the Ikalafeng mobile clinic. This one is in Limpopo, and you can see the clinic and the jobs that it's supporting. And then back to Gauteng in Deep Sloot, Senzo Urban Agricultural Cooperative. This one also receiving grant funding of about 4.9 million. It's a township urban agricultural initiative, an important initiative in the context of addressing food insecurity, and we do hope that we'll be able to expand some of these types of initiatives in order to deal with the issues of ensuring that people do have food and affordable and healthy food. Companies that were affected by natural disasters and unrest were also supported through the economic recovery funds with the aim of building back better. And over the past 2 years, the NEF and the IDC supported township initiatives with funding of around 1.2 billion. These supported 22,000 jobs, saving 13,000 jobs, creating 1,500 new jobs and retaining 7,500 jobs. And then enterprises that were impacted here, 2,500 township enterprises through the strategic implementing partners and through direct funding. Members would recall that as we're dealing with the economic recovery, one of the big innovations that came from the IDC, it's actually reaching out to much smaller enterprises than they would ordinarily reach out to, and using strategic implementing partners to make sure that they're reaching out to those enterprises more quickly, and that those partners will be agile enough to deal with the issues that some of these enterprises were facing. And then it helps the IDC expand its reach beyond what it would ordinarily have been able to. Then here we're just showing some of the companies that we supported through the Gauteng school, where being one of those. The Mutobatsi holding in Soweto township, and here we helped through this initiative of building back better, the refurbishment and equipment and display cabinets that were replaced with modern alternatives which enhanced customer and in-store experience. And the aim here was to ensure that the retail enterprise would increase its turnover because of how we have assisted it to rebuild. And then the Dawn Park pharmacy in Fort Slores, the new Horizon NPO also in Dobsonville, All Tiles in Sebokeng were also supported through the recovery fund, and here the focus was the equipment and the stocks which were replaced with latest technology designs for an enhanced, again, customer experience, and to provide a larger choice spectrum. You can see Black X Cafe, and then in the Free State Utadichaba, we also supported the Masana Empowerment Service, NPC, and this was through an IDC grant in Mhlaba Wake, in Inanda and Duzuma and Kwamashu townships. We supported Mhlaba Wake projects, and this is in the construction sector as well. And in Umbumbulu and Kwamakuta township, we've supported Tibo trading, and they also in construction. I think some of the importance of these type of initiatives is assisting the communities to take back infrastructure development in their localities. And what was done here is that these were supported for capex and equipment. Then in Mpumalanga, the next one is Mabungana. They're trading as Kanyetex, and of course in the textile sector, just showing you some of the work that they are doing. And then the next slide is JR and Sons plant hire. Sorry for that. And they are in recycling in KZN in the township of Verulam. And then in Alexander, Wine Foods, we just showing also the spread of the type of activities that is being supported. They were supported through the NEF. They deal primarily in processing chicken and processing individually packed quick frozen portions. And these go, of course, to a number of retailers and shops. And then SA Paint distributors in Diepsloot, in Diepkloof and in Roodepoort, they are SA Paint distributor, and they also are distributing to townships and rural areas, and they've received support from the NEF. APML, this one is in Soweto. They one of those entities that were affected by the July unrest, and we've also through the work that the DTIC group of institutions to supported them. The NEF approved funding to the value of 40 million to restore 10 KFC branches and secure the jobs of workers at these Soweto branches. They employ 1,050 South African workers. And then the Universal Pulse 348. Here we just showing some of the work that was done for the economic recovery. And this was in Inanda township. And then similarly here, but for Kwamashu, it was built mats. And then in Mtwalume Rural Village, that Hyatt investment also supported through the NEF, and then wildfire trading in Alexander Township, and then Lindo Fast Foods, that's back in Kwamashu, again, also supported through the NEF. So those were just some of the enterprises in the townships that were supported, particularly through for the Economic Recovery Fund. Now, with the Social Employment Fund, this fund aims to create 50,000 temporary job opportunities for unemployed, predominantly youth. The intention is not for the SIF to create permanent jobs, but it must provide temporary financial relief for participants, giving them a bit of experience as well in preparing them to enter the job market. 80% of funding is paid directly to beneficiaries at a minimum wage. And then this one is targeted for rural and township areas. And then here in the next slide, 28 strategic implementing partners were supported. And then we indicating the 1,065 community-based organizations, and the job opportunities supported there 65,000. And of course, the new funding round currently in process to allocate a further 1.1 billion. And then we're showing some of the case studies and the type of work being done here. Violence prevention through urban upgrading, the focus areas there of the funding. And then we just showcasing here public benefit organization and the impact that they are having in improvement efforts and social uplift. And then the Social Employment Fund, I think on the next one, we just showing some of the people that have benefited here, and the experiences that they're sharing on having participated in this project. And then can see again further examples of the stories of persons that have participated in this initiative. And then I think from the NEF, they've also supported property development in townships. Property development is a big issue, again starved of capital, and the NEF has come in to be part of the solution for that sector. And 12 townships and rural businesses were supported, and those are the jobs that they've created. And this funding was targeted to businesses in providing affordable and quality accommodation. And these businesses were affording this accommodation to students and to enable community members to own shares in malls that are built in townships and rural areas. And I think in the slide that follows, we're just showing some of the various types of property that has been supported in different parts of South Africa through the NEF. And then the next couple of slides, I think also just focusing on that. And then in the slide that shows some of the work that we've done on critical infrastructure, as I indicated, here is where we will support infrastructure in order to enable businesses to improve their operations, where their working capital doesn't have to go into dealing with infrastructure failures that would then constrain their own business from growing, because they have to pay for things that businesses in other parts of South Africa don't really have to focus on. Over the past 7 years, we have supported we've supported through 784 million, facilitating investment, also jobs in construction, but also ensuring that jobs remain and grow in different companies. And then we are showing some of the activities here, a number of projects that were done in industrial parks, a number of malls that were built, because sometimes it's important for a mall to be built in a locality to allow other businesses to come and have a place to operate where there will be foot traffic. And there you see some of the malls in Nkuzana village, in Tlazini district, that were built, and then for transformation funding in the energy sector. This is where the work of the NEF. The investment there is in 75 service stations that operate in township and rural areas, and it has supported a number of jobs. And then we can see there's some of the examples: Sasol in Tembisa, and then in Umlazi township as well. And then in terms of the partnership funds and some of the non-financial support that the NEF does, we just showing you the partnerships that have with the private sector to support development of township economies, important companies that have reached out to the more underdeveloped parts of South Africa, and they are doing good work there. We just showing some of those, and in the slide that follows, township economy participation funds, and with the Gauteng provincial government. This is a very important initiative that the IDC is managing with the Gauteng provincial government, where they have set aside funds for township development, and the IDC is assisting them to identify those companies and provide the companies dedicated support. And we hope that these types of initiatives will grow, because we have seen that where there is a targeted effort in developing either a sector or even a locality, and that is done in a way that the funds flow more directly to the beneficiary enterprises, that does lead to growth, and it changes the outcomes of that locality in a very positive way. The IDC intends to expand this model to 3 other provinces, the Eastern Cape, KwaZulu-Natal, Free State, and we're hoping that provinces such as the Northern Cape, Limpopo, Mpumalanga will also come on board, because these are provinces largely rural, with very few economic nodes, where focus not just on the township economy, but both peri-urban and rural economies will really go a long way in helping to develop those economies and develop the talent that is there, and develop it there in Mpumalanga or in Limpopo, as opposed to the current state where entrepreneurs in some instances are forced to move in order to realize the entrepreneurial the dreams, and that creating further concentration and starving the underdeveloped nodes of the talent that those nodes require to develop. Chair, in the presentation by the minister, both in the budget vote speech and for the APP, minister mentioned that the DTIC would also be sending all its senior managers to the different districts in order to help unlock value in those districts, bring some of the ideas quicker to market, work with the various agencies of the department to solve and block any problems that some of these enterprises that are in far-flung localities are experiencing, and they're finding themselves just stuck without support. Minister indicated that the senior leadership of the DTIC will all have to be what we call district champions, with one each having a district that we will be responsible for. We're hoping this will help us turn even the tide of having industrial nodes that have potential, but they haven't developed because of various reasons. It will help us to bring to the fore some of the municipal issues that entrepreneurs have to deal with. It will help us step in where we can within mandate and assist some of the enterprises there. It will help also with ideas about how do we bring some of these enterprises more sustainably into the discussions we are having on the African continental free trade areas, the various trade negotiations that we have concluded, and now we have trade agreements. This will be the work that these district champions are going to do, and it is there in our 2023-2024 financial year plans. It will be part of the work that the NEF and the IDC are already doing, looking at different initiatives in various parts of South Africa. And with this, we are hoping to increase our targeted approach on the various non-urban or even townships, rural enterprises for a long time have not received the dedicated support because they are very far from the important and more intense nodes of our economy. We believe that when we create more nodes, when we create more opportunities for enterprises, irrespective of where they are, this will help us deal with the big issues of unemployment, of poverty, and of creating an economy that is much more inclusive. So those are some of the plans, Chair, that we have already begun to roll out as a department in order to address challenges in various parts of South Africa. But I think for the context of this particular presentation, to see areas where we can, through the instrument of industrial financing, also support enterprises whose growth has been constrained by lack of funding, not because the ideas are not good enough, but just because of where they are located. Thank you, Chairperson.
Wow, that was quite a presentation. Thank you very much, Acting DG. Tell me, are we going to get inputs from the two entities that are with you, or can I go into question session and then they can come in when we, for the responses? You are muted.
Thank you, Chair. They can probably come in the question and answer session, Chairperson. We had prepared this as an integrated presentation from the DTIC, Chair. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much, Acting DG. Members of the Portfolio Committee, can we see hands for interaction with this presentation on township economies, investment in township economies? I'm taking hands. Honorable McPherson. Honorable Mbiani. Okay, we'll check Dr. Ntwani. Honorable Malamacha. And then we also welcome Honorable Floriana to the meeting, and we also note the apology submitted by Honorable Thring. Honorable McPherson.
Thanks very much. Can you tell me
You're muted.
what is the in the last financial year? Then is that money is lent with very little support to ensuring that those businesses become more viable than they are. So I would just like to understand what is the process in terms of from application to sort of success, and what what support is provided to these specific loan applications. And I'll just repeat the first question: what is the impairment rate on these loans in the last financial year, on average? Thanks.
Thank you very much, Honorable McPherson. Honorable Mbiani.
Thanks, Chair, for the opportunity. Let me first welcome the presentation. It's more informative. Chair, I have some few clarity-seeking questions here. Maybe I'll start with the easiest one. To be clarified between a township and a rural. Because we have 6 rural provinces, and the IDC and NEF offices are in all those provinces. And also, Chair, verifying the economic concentration report that reveals the increase of concentration of our economy, that has poses a serious threat to the sustenance and also the SMME, which undermines the inclusive growth and potential of creating more jobs. And now, Chair, linked this to the 36% of industrial financing support in township economy, specifically in Joburg, where the current economic concentration is at. Then looking at the mandate of both the DTIC, NEF, and the IDC, I think one of that is to at least create inclusive economic reform to drive inclusive growth is one of the priorities of the DTIC. And now, if you check the presentation, it shows that that industrial financing is skewed to the metropolitan provinces. It does not address the mandate of inclusive growth, because you understand that most of our poorest of the poor, they reside in rural areas. And I don't know, maybe I'll be clarified in the process. And also checking on the malls that are built in the township. Who are the suppliers of those goods there? Are the local people, or those goods that are coming by trucks and so forth from Joburg as well? I just want to understand that what is the arrangement of the NEC and the NEF and the IDC in terms of establishing co-ops and also financing them, so that in those local malls and establishment, local people are supplying. Because our belief is that, Chair, we cannot fail to produce cabbage, for it to produce fruits and so forth. But then if you transfer that fruits from Joburg to all the rural provinces, and also in terms of the funding, all Gauteng it's most funded. To me, it doesn't augur well, Chair. And also the property development funding. We do have new universities in the Northern Cape and also in Mpumalanga. Can we get in terms of number of assistance that they did to those two provinces around the property development for student accommodation to accommodate the new universities that has just been built on those provinces? Chair, let me pause there for now. Maybe I'll come later through interventions like Black Industrialists and also the funding from IDC, which support women, youth. And we request that even people with disability be included in those presentations, because in terms of that, they must also be part of the beneficiaries. People living with disability and also be part of those initiatives. I'll pause there for now. Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. Dr. Ntwane.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the presentation. It was quite impressive. My input is around our townships, where we are plagued with foreign tuck shop owners using the spider web doctrine to close out our traditional tuck shops. So these foreign-owned tuck shops undermine our health laws. They contribute to the deterioration of the quality of life of the communities and residents in our townships. So I want to know, what are the direct strategies that you employ to create awareness of the products you have for the township businesses and cooperatives, for them to get funding and to get on board in terms of making their businesses a success. So, and also, can you give us a list of, maybe after the PC, a list of the contact people in each province or in region that we can refer our constituencies to? Especially, I'm from the Northern Cape, so I would really like to get more businesses involved in the rural of the rural Northern Cape. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Malamacha.
Thank you so much, Chairperson. Let me also follow suit and welcome the report. Very precise to socio-economic matters, with intention to prove the life and the living conditions of the previously disadvantaged communities, the working class and the poor in South Africa. One is very happy with these interventions. However, the following will need more clarity and the strategy. How best will they continue the good work? Dealing with the matter that has just been raised by Honorable regarding the illegal shop owners and the quality of what they are selling to our masses. From the presidency, SONA, there was a commitment to assist Lindo. Lindo was assisted with a container which looked so smart in your presentation, which we really appreciate. One will be asking to say, how best is the department intending to ensure that this container does not end in one place? countering to the illegal and outcry of our masses around the illegal shop owners of the non-South Africans who sometimes sleeps in the very same shop, not adhering to the bylaws. What is the intention of the department to ensure that the whole country get that assistance of some sort? Chairperson, not far from what Honorable Mbuyane said, who are the people who are giving or supplying whatever is needed into the malls, bearing in mind that we have our own farmers who can do. In Cape Town Park, on the Cape Town Park social housing program, it is complete, it's nice, very impressive. One will want the department to assist to tell us the beneficiary and the category. Why one mentioned the category with an interest of seeing the disabled or the people living with disability being accommodated, and even the very same building itself having features to accommodate them, so that really we deliver, and we deliver without discrimination of some sort. The last question, Chair, will be, has the IDC and EC and NEC met their given targets so that we understand whatever they are getting to assist is really utilized correctly? And if not, what are the reasons? Because if you check, Comrade, some state one will ask, does the DTIC and its entity in any way collaborate with the Department of Small Business Development in addition to that? Thank you so much, Comrade Chairperson.
Any other inputs before I hand back to the DG? Honorable Monakedi.
Chair.
Chairperson, thank you very much. In the presentation, there is an indication that around 400 million fund has been established between the provincial government and the NEF and the IDC. I don't know whether I said that level or you said the level of the department on the side of the national government. But my question is with regard to the involvement in this initiative by provincial finance development entities like Leader in Limpopo, Mega in Mpumalanga, DGTA in Gauteng, and so forth. I just want to understand as to whether are they part and parcel of this initiative? Are they playing a role? And the reason why I'm interested in that question is to understand as to whether is there a collaboration really between NEF, IDC, and these provincial entities? Because with that collaboration, for sure, they'll be more empowered and they'll be able to share resources and be in a position to reach out to more of our communities, more of our people, obviously with the necessary benefits. So if I can just get clarity on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I just want to raise the issue of the overlap. Is there an overlap with the Department of Small Business and its entities, CEDA and CIFA, in the work being done? And is there a level of cooperation between small business and the work that was presented here today? Thank you very much. Acting DG, over to you, and then you can allow the entities and whoever's on the platform with your team, DTIC, to to handle the responses. Thank you. Over to you, Acting DG.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I think it would be perhaps better at this stage to ask the CEO of the NEF to come in on the issues related to the NEF, followed by the CEO of the IDC on issues relating to the IDC and the various projects. And I'll come in at the end, Chair, with your permission.
That's fine. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. CEO, NEF.
Good morning, Chairperson, and good morning, honorable members, DG and colleagues. I will start with a question that was raised by Honorable McPherson on the processes that our applicants would go through from inception when they knock on our doors. How do they walk that journey with us? So maybe the best way of responding to your question, honorable member, is to just take you through some of the market failures that are faced by especially our rural and township, enterprises. We have said to the committee before that obviously the one that we are familiar with would be the lack of access to affordable finance, the limited management skills, including financial marketing and technical expertise, the lack of accurate and reliable financial information, because before you can even submit your project or transaction to us, you should have complied with all these requirements. And obviously the poor quality of the business plans that are presented to us, the lower bargaining power and strong competition from established businesses. There's the honorable member who was raising this issue as it relates to, the spaza shops that you would find especially in the townships. So how do you actually utilize their buying power to actually facilitate preferential market access to the products that they will be selling in the townships, and the constrained access to local and international markets? So when you look at all of these market failures, we have actually conceptualized products that are specifically beginning to talk to the challenges that our entrepreneurs, are faced with. So for instance, the NEF provides entrepreneurial training and incubation support in conjunction with government agencies like CEDA and a range of other partners and service providers. So we'll be out there in the rural areas in all the 9 provinces. By the way, Chairperson will be working with a lot of companies that are supporting our work. And just on the entrepreneurial training, we have reached more than 1 million, South Africans who just come to try and gather information. We'll take them through the whole business planning, process, starting from that level. Then we have also developed the NEF's business plan toolkits, which is an online solution to help entrepreneurs to complete their business plans through a simple question and answer session. And it's available in all the 7 indigenous languages. Then on the lack of access to local and international markets, would also facilitate linkages for our entrepreneurs with off-takers, relationships with franchisors and corporates to alleviate the market failure. So in this one, we have partnerships with the likes of Pick n Pay, the likes of Woolworths. So if we see a product that we believe can actually, be accommodated on the shelves, by any of these retailers, we have direct access to those retailers. So we walk the journey with them. We'll be hand-holding them to the point of making sure that their, products are enlisted by those big retailers. And then on the affordable finance, we have entered into all these partnerships. For instance, if you look at the petrol stations that we have supported in the rural areas and townships, yeah, I'm using the two interchangeably, Chair, because we look at both in the same way, you know, because if you look at the challenges, they are similar, and we have even established the Rural and Township Community Development Fund actually assist us with this work. And then we also have mentorship support, which is really the mainstay of the NEF's intervention, Chair, where we provide dedicated care and skills transfer through a dedicated post-investment department. So once you have submitted your application through our pre-investment division, it will then be processed by the funds. Just to remind the committee that we have 4 dedicated funds: the Rural and Township Community Development Fund. We have Umnoto Fund, which deals with expansionary acquisitions. And then we also have the SPF, which is the Strategic Projects Fund, which is what is similar to the work that we're doing in the Black industrialist space. So that we came up with the SPF fund before the BI program was introduced by the DTIC. And then we have the SMME fund. So the projects will be submitted to these funds depending on what the entrepreneurs will be looking at, and then it goes through the various corporate governance structures of the NEF. Then there will be the due diligence. So for instance, if you say you want to start a new petrol station, so it means our teams must go to visit those rural areas to actually make sure that you have the licenses. They will negotiate with the municipalities and also assist that entrepreneur to negotiate with the likes of Engine BP and other, other private sector, companies. Then it comes to the committees. There's an EXCO, committee. So depending on the quantum and the threshold that you'll be looking at, it would then be, if it's more than 20 million at NEF, it then goes to the next committee, which is the board investment committee. So if it's like smaller size transaction, like 1 million or 2 million, there are lower committees that will also deal with it. So when it gets approved at that level, obviously the lawyers and our finance people will ensure that the funds are dispersed accordingly. So if it's a construction, project, for instance, let's say you have applied for 20 million, you will not get the full 20 million, at once. We will do it upon completion of certain, completion or achievement of certain key milestones. So we can start with a small tranche of 3 million until that construction, let's say we are doing student accommodation, until it's actually up and running. So we'll not, disperse all the money at once. So when the project is up and running, we then send it to our post-investment division. So those are the, colleagues who will be working with our mentors to ensure that once you have invested the funds, that those businesses will become commercially viable businesses and maybe one day become global players in the economy. So that's how it works. On the impairment, our impairment number is currently sitting at 25%, Chairperson. Then Honorable Mbuyane was asking on the differentiation between township and rural. As I said, Honorable Mbuyane, we use that terminology interchangeably because it's one fund. And as I said, it's actually one, fund. I mean, the challenges are actually similar that are faced by those entities that we look at there. So we are saying also who are the suppliers. So when we look at a property, I'll use property once again as an example. Property development initiatives like student accommodation, low-cost houses, and so on, which we do in partnership with the SHRA, which is another DFI that falls under the Department of Human Settlements. So there we will unpack the transaction to actually see, okay, so in the construction, you'll be looking for steel products, you'll be looking for cement, you'll be looking for tiling and so on. So we will start by looking at our existing investee companies. For instance, if we have some companies that are involved in those in a similar sector, we'll then introduce those companies to this applicant to say, this is a Black-owned business, or a 51%, because Black-owned for us, 51% in other instances would still have Black entrepreneurs who work with white companies as well. So we'll introduce them, and then obviously they will take them through their own procurement processes. Or depending on where the project is going to be located, we will then encourage our entrepreneurs to also look at the possibility of sourcing some of the skills from the local communities, sourcing some of the products, from the local enterprises as well. So we don't just disperse, it becomes a very, very engaged process, and we walk that journey with the entrepreneurs. And then on the property development funds, Chairperson, if you allow me, can I allow one of my executives, Zama, to talk to this question? Thank you.
Yes,
and
go ahead.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Chair. On the question of the Property Development Fund, we do support student accommodation along with the other suites of property development that the CEO has mentioned. We identified the strategy and have been implementing it for the last 7 years across all the provinces. And we have, come up with a unique funding model that actually crowds in the participation of youth-owned businesses, or ensures a benefit for the students, in addition to providing decent and affordable student accommodation that meets the NSFAS criteria from a spatial planning perspective, a proximity to university perspective, and also an affordability perspective. So to date, Chair, we've supported in excess of 300 million of our property portfolios going towards these student accommodations. Thank you.
And then, Chairperson, on the last issue, so we don't deal with the tax shops in the townships, because CIFA, I think, receives more than R1 billion to deal with your small SMMEs. Even though we're in the SMME sector, we are not a chairperson dealing with the tax shops, because there you also need to come up with innovative financing schemes, like a combination of grant funding, and then maybe you mix it with some loans. So they are able to do that because they do have the grant portion that gets allocated to CIFA by the fiscus. But what we did during the economic recovery, we were able to access a bit of funding from the Solidarity Fund, which was given to the NEF as grant funding. So those are the funds, Chair, that we're able to utilize when we were funding like Lindom Somi's container that you saw earlier. So this, Chair, it's a story that, even, the honorable members must talk about, because Mr. Msomi touched, us as the country. He's like a real gem. So what happened, his tuck shop, which is not far from the hostel, in Guamashu, was also vandalized during the riots. So he used to get 350 rands from, the SASSA contributions, put the money aside and started his spaza shop. So it was vandalized, and when it was vandalized, it then encouraged the NEF to utilize some of the grant funding, portion that we had received from the Solidarity Fund to try and assist Mr. Msomi. So what we did, Honorable Chairperson, we installed the steel containers because he was using, I don't even know what kind of material, that was. But it wasn't like, a very strong structure that he actually had in place. So we got those heavy steel containers. They're about, I think it's about 10 square meters. And then we bought everything, all the different equipment that, like the gas stove, the gas cylinders, we got the, the fridges and so on and so forth. And today, Chairperson, I'm very, very happy to share with you that Mr. Msomi's kiosk is actually thriving, in KwaMashu. Imagine if we were to get, more of those. And then there's another one in Sebokeng. So this entrepreneur used to pull something with pots and everything, but he used to pull it to a spot also not far from the hostel. So we did a similar initiative there, where we have installed these steel containers. So he operates from that, from that facility as we currently speak. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, DG.
Chair, to the IDC now, CEO IDC.
Good morning. Thank you, Chairperson.
Did you get the question that you put in the chat that you didn't hear?
Yes, the honorable member said it was about impairments. So yes.
Okay. Oh, that's right. Yes. Okay, then. Thank you.
Thank you. And my colleague, Joanne Bate, she's the Chief Operating Officer at the IDC. She will assist me with augmentation on some of the responses. And Chair, I'll try and be brief. Just so that it is clear, members of committee, that the information that we provided, it should be seen in 3 dimensions. One, the portfolio of loans that have been advanced by the IDC over the period that we covered, which is from 2010 to date. This is the one where the DG referred to an aggregate in excess of 60 billion rand where we have funded. So that is the first part. The second part, which is also a lending program, is the 300 million rand of the township economy fund with the Gauteng province. It is also a loans program. Then, Chairperson, the rest of the programs that we reported on, being the Social Solidarity Fund, the Disaster Recovery Fund, as well as the Social Employment Fund, all these are grant programs. They are not loans. They are grant programs. So, to the first question about impairments, the reported impairment number on the Township Economy Fund with the Gauteng province is just less than 5%, and this we got from our partner implementing organization, the SME Fund, and we can validate that and confirm that in writing to yourselves. And then, of course, Chair, as I've just clarified, the rest of the programs would not have impairment values because they are grant programs. Let me go forward. In terms of the process of applications, Chair, these grant programs that we have implemented through the implementation partners, we deliberately and very carefully selected the implementation partners based on their capabilities to originate, to find these small and medium-sized businesses, and secondly, to offer the kind of ongoing support that my colleague from the NEF was talking about, i.e. post-investment support, both to access markets, both to keep decent set of records, and so on to comply with laws so that they are able to run viable businesses. So what then happens is that at the level of the IDC, we have our own portfolio management division, which then works through these partner organizations that are on the ground in order to oversee the operational success of the individual businesses. As you can imagine, the IDC works, as they say in the banking language, in a wholesale model when it comes to our support programs in SME. So we provide bulk facilities to these implementation agencies that are on the ground and spread across all provinces. And they then touch the SMEs directly on the ground across the length and breadth of South Africa, where we would, as the IDC, ordinarily not have the tentacles to reach. So these institutions provide us with a network footprint that we then use for distribution of funding and support services. Chair, I think the comment was made around the differentiation between township and rural economies. Really, townships are traditional townships which are located really on the urban edge of main economic centers in the towns. But rural areas are your classic rural areas, the former homeland areas and some of the traditional areas in various parts of the country. And these programs that we have reported on are aimed at supporting businesses in these localities, Chairperson. The point is always made about concentration. I do have a graph here in front of me. I don't think this was shared with the committee, of how that aggregate 60 billion rand over the years, over the past, since 2010 to now, was distributed. And yes, there is a propensity for the more developed provinces to still attract a large proportion of the funding. But in this instance, this particular portfolio that we're referring to, i.e. the money that was distributed by the IDC directly, Gauteng is at 29%, followed by Limpopo 15%, followed by the Eastern Cape 13%, and next is KZN 11%, Northern Cape 10%, and then the rest of the provinces really in this lower digit, Mpumalanga 8%, Western Cape 7%, and the others. So this distribution, and we are happy to provide this data, does indicate that we are trying our best through these township development programs to distribute development finance as optimally as we can across geographies in this country. Chairperson, the questions around malls and so on, the IDC does not finance property developments, commercial properties like malls and so on. We have assisted businesses, as we indicated, under the disaster recovery program, where businesses in the malls, particularly in townships, were looted and so on. We assisted, as we indicated, for instance, a pharmacy, I think in the East Rand that we highlighted as an example. But we don't have a portfolio of funding for malls properties. And Chairperson, the same goes for student accommodation. It is out of our industrial development mandate, so it is an area of work that the IDC does not have an involvement in. Chair, a brief comment on businesses that are foreign owned in the township and rural areas. Through this network of implementation partners that we work with, the criteria or the principle that has been set out was that individuals who apply and qualify for funding from these IDC funded programs should have and should demonstrate valid South African identity. Yes, our implementation partners go on the ground and also validate compliance to regulations and licensing requirements and so on. We are happy to provide that list of contact details, Chairperson. We will do so immediately after this. There was a question of whether we have met our targets. The question was not specific to the financial year, Chairperson. We are still to report on the financial year ended March 2023. Safe to say, as the IDC, we are happy with the extent to which we have met our targets this past financial year. There will always be a proportion of targets, perhaps where we fall short. That is the nature of our work. But substantially, many of the KPIs that have been set for us for the last financial year, we have met. Chair, there was a specific question about the Gauteng Fund, whether it was done with the involvement of the Provincial Development Agency. The answer is yes. We worked with the Department of Economic Development, and indeed the partnership agreement that we have includes the Gauteng Economic and Growth Development Agency. This was put together during the time when MEC Parkstar was still the MEC there. As we know, he has since moved. Chair, your question around the overlaps with the Department of Small Business, the way we look at it, I think the answer is that the target market that we are seeking to serve is largely similar, although they concentrate a lot on retail type businesses, which we do not cover that much as the IDC because we try and do industrial type enterprises. But there are commonalities. The need out there is massive. I think if I recall correctly, the CFA's allocation on an annual basis is somewhere in the order of around 2 billion. That is just a drop in the ocean relative to what the small business sector needs countrywide by way of support. So the way we look at it, Chairperson, it's more complementary. We ensure that we cross-check and not fund the same businesses. So we share information. So if there is a pharmacy or a soap manufacturing business that has been supported there, we share data and ensure that there's no double dipping. But the needs are massive out there, and I think it is only complementary and valuable that the IDC, the NEF, the Small Enterprise Funding Agency, as well as the Provincial Development Corporation should all bring their muscles to bear in supporting SMEs to the extent, as I say, that we mitigate any potential for double dipping or triple dipping or multiple dipping. Chair, I think I have touched on the questions that were relevant to the IDC, and I will ask my colleague, Joanne Bate, to please add, with your permission, Chairperson.
Yes, please proceed.
Thank you so much, Chair, and thank you, CE. I think the only thing I'd like to emphasize is the geographic spread and focus. We did recognize with the Township Fund that it was focused in a largely developed province, while at the same time we did recognize the high levels of unemployment within that province. So we felt that it was a necessary pilot for us to work with Gauteng government as a partner in unpacking a model that we could replicate into other provinces. We have engaged many of the provinces in order to establish a similar collaboration, because we think that there's value in collaboration rather than us doing these funds on our own. And we have set aside 300 million rand for additional funds into other provinces in order to expand, building on the lessons that we learned within Gauteng, to ensure that we can put relevant and necessary support into the other provinces. Where it comes to the regional distribution, we have also, through the Social Employment Fund, done a lot of work to understand the employment threats that exist within the provinces to ensure that we support job creation where the concentration is necessary. So we are very focused on both capital deployed into the provinces on an equitable basis, but also really ensuring that we put money where the job creation opportunities are both necessary and possible. We have created a model called SME Connect, which is a connector model between small businesses and large corporates. What we're seeking to do, it works it complements a cooperative model where we look at aggregating the supply of small suppliers into large corporates. Many small businesses struggle to grow because they don't have access to market. And we believe that this proposition will be a very necessary tool to provide access for the small businesses that are both developing and growing within the provinces to actually access that corporate offtake market. And with that comes necessary support in helping them to be better governed and to respond effectively to the needs of larger corporate off-takers. Chair, I think that I will stop at that and see if there's any further questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Did I miss it? Acting DG, did you cover the overlap with CIFA and CEDA and small business?
Yes, Chair, I think both the CEOs did mention that we do collaborate, and I think the CEO of the IDC even gave an example of where this was done in terms of Gauteng with the Gauteng Development Agency. So not only do we collaborate at national level with some of the agencies, but we also do so with the local agencies depending on the projects that we implement.
Okay, thank you. I think we've managed time well. It looks, unless there are follow-up questions from members, we've just on 11 o'clock we plan to be.
Chair,
Oh, okay, sorry.
Okay, I see Honorable Malamacha's hand is up. Can I just take him first and then I'll come back to you, Acting DG. Honorable Malamacha.
Thank you, Chairperson. IDC did answer my question in terms of the targets. NEC did not answer my question on that. Chairperson, there is a twist or an attempt to escape this very important exercise utilizing the wage mandate. And I am not saying they are in a small business, but I'm saying if they can assist to provide the container similar to the Lindo in a form of funding those, then the operation, I can say it refers to the small businesses. Touching story as related by the very same team, but yet when coming to commitment of saying how best this can be applied to all over the country in countering what we term as illegal shop owners, who we are definitely sure that all of us, we are not necessarily happy with that. But I'm saying, Comrade Chair, I felt that there's a narrow line that is in between there, and it's not necessarily for the benefit of the masses on the ground. And I'm saying the very same mandate will really need to come clear and say, giving out funds to purchase or buy containers is not a small business thing. Thank you.
Thank you, DG. I'm not sure who will take that question from, or follow-up question from Honorable Malamacha.
Thanks, Chair. I thought the question was directed to the NEF.
Oh,
So
okay.
I'll just check with the CEO if perhaps you'd want to respond.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, DG. DG, can you just quickly summarize the question? So I had a connectivity problem. Am I supposed to talk about the containers that we have installed in the townships?
Yes, and if it can be expanded.
Yes, okay. Thank you, DG. Honorable Mali Machi. So remember I explained to the honorable members how the NEF was able to fund the enterprises, including the co-ops that we were referring to earlier. So we received a dedicated fund from the Solidarity Fund. Solidarity Fund is the fund that was set up by the president to assist the country with with the COVID-19 pandemic. So it was a private sector-led initiative. It had all the CEOs of these top businesses in South Africa. So we went to them because we realized that we needed to have a small portion that we could invest as a grant. So those funds were allocated. We invested in about 24 co-ops, and then including the 2 businesses that I was referring to earlier. However, going forward, the NEF will not be in a position to provide this kind of funding because when the money goes out, it must go out as grant funding. So in terms of the PFMA regulations, there would be a finding against the NEF if we were to continue utilizing the funds from our own balance sheets actually go out as grant funding. And I fully agree with you. As I said, it's a story that touched all of us. It was everywhere in the news. But the only thing that the honorable members were not aware of is that the NEF had actually risen to the occasion.
Probably you want to pay your money there.
To assist.
Secretary, please mute.
So the answer, honorable member, is that given the current financial position of the NEF, we were not able to allocate these funds as grant funds. But if we're to be lucky to get another grant funding, from some of our partners, we will certainly look into that. We fully agree with you that it would actually take the country, forward and alleviate some of the challenges that some of our businesses, are grappling with. So, but I forgot, Chairperson, to also mention another very exciting initiative that we're looking at, which is also looking at supporting rural and township, enterprises. It's a partnership fund between the NEF and the Development Bank of Southern Africa. It is actually, it was established just, a few months ago. It was capitalized to the tune of 500 million rands by the DBSA. So what it's seeking to do is to leverage the NEF's expertise to assist with SMME funding because we have a track record in this particular area. So we were approached by the DBSA to be the implementing, agency for this fund. So the fund, once again, Chairperson, will allow us to cover even additional areas, that we have not been able to cover previously. So it's something that, the committee should be aware of. And then at the launch of this very exciting initiative, we will then be in a position to invite the honorable members as well. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. I think, Chair, this then, yes, Chair, thank you very much. This then really concludes our presentation to the committee. In summary, what we have shared with the committee is just the various programs that we are managing to support township enterprises. As we have said, we are the first to say that what we have in our kitty is not near enough. And the request from the minister to all of us is that we have to do more with what we have. We have to crowd in more partners. The example that the NEF has just indicated to you, our attempts to crowd in more funders in order for us to be able to expand the support on a more sustainable basis. The question that we didn't all answer, which it would be in error if we don't answer, was the question asked by Dr. Ndwane on strategies of awareness for enterprises. We do try and make sure that all the information on all the programs that we have, we make it available on all our websites, and each of the 3 institutions would do road shows individually, and we will also do it together. But in most instances, we do find that there are still people who don't even have enough information on the work that we do. So one of the areas for this district champions of the DTIC that will be going to the 52 districts is to make sure that we also plug that hole and try as far as it's possible to make sure that as many people who can benefit from our programs are aware of the support that we are offering. And on that score, we would also ask members to help us. Like I say, the more we do, the more we find out that there's more information being required to help us spread the word. And in due course, we should be able to, in making a subsequent presentation, indicate to the committee the awareness and the outreach programs that we have put in place to deal with this. Thank you, Chairperson. I think this then concludes all the questions that members had put to us, and we've provided the responses. Thank you, Chair, and thank you, honorable members.
Thank you very much, Acting DG, and thank you to the NEF CEO and the IDC CEO for coming to the committee to give us this briefing. We will continue to monitor the work of the entities together with the department in developing rural and township economies. Thank you very much. We will now have a 10-minute break and reconvene at 11:20. Can I just check, Committee Secretary, how many sets of minutes we have?
Chair, I think we have about 4 or 5 sets of minutes, Chair. It's
okay, so let's
16.
take a break, yes, and reconvene at 20 past. Thank you very much.
Chairperson, this first set of minutes is the 16th of May. We just want Margaret to share it with us, Chair. Chair, on that day, we had a briefing by the Export Credit Insurance Corporation of South Africa on the strategic and annual performance plan, and we formally considered minutes. We go down, Chair. I think we had a full complement of the committee, Chair. One is just introductory. If we go down, Mr. Mapula, together with Mr. Kuhn and Mr. Makatazo, briefed the committee on the annual performance plan and strategic plan of the ECIC. 2.2 captures the issues that the committee focused on. If we go down, we proceeded to consider the minutes of the 9th, 10th, 12th of May, Chair. And if we go down, we informed the committee in terms of Rule 1582B about the postponement of the meeting on the 17th of May, and that will proceed on the 24th of May. In spite of the budget debate that afternoon, there was a decision, a question whether the committee should also not meet on the 24th. The meeting adjourned on the 23rd of May, Chair.
Thank you, members. There's the minutes of the 16th of May. Can we see move in a seconder for the adoption of the minutes as tabled?
Mr. Mbuyani, Chair.
Honorable Mbuyani.
Chairperson, thank you very much. I propose that we adopt the minutes as a true reflection of our deliberation. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for that motion?
Mr. Malamatia, Chair.
Honorable Malamatia.
Thank you, Chair. I stand to second Honorable Mbuyane. Thank you.
Thank you. Minutes are duly adopted for the 16th of May. Next set of minutes.
Chair, the next set of minutes will be 23rd of May. In your absence, we elected an acting chairperson. You received a briefing on ITAC, on its strategic and performance plan. The apologies for, if you go down, the apologies for the day was yourself, Chair, who was not feeling well. If you go down, we proceeded to elect an acting chair, and Mr. Mbuyane was elected as chairperson for until you return. And then we proceeded to receive a briefing from Mr. Tawe on the ITAC strategic and annual performance plan for the 23-24 financial year. Point 3.2 captures the issues that were raised by the committee during the deliberations. If you go down. And we resolved that outstanding issues will be submitted in writing, Chair. The meeting adjourned at 10:36 until the 24th of May, Chair. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Members, there's minutes.
Mr. Mohatse, Chair, and Mr. Mbuyane.
Okay, Honorable Mohatse.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I move for adoption of the minutes as true reflection.
Thank you. Honorable Mbuyane.
Thank you very much, Chair. I second the proposal for the adoption of the minutes as a true reflection of our deliberation. Thank you.
Thank you. Next minute.
The next set of minutes is the 24th of May, Chair. We received a briefing by the NCC on its fourth quarter financial and non-financial performance for the 22-23 financial year. Also, the NEC briefed the committee on the progress made in the implementation offers recommendations on the timeshare industry, Chair. Go down. Chair, we had an apology from Mr. McPherson and Mr. Mulder on that day, Chair. Chair, number 1 is just a basic introduction. Then Chair 2 deals with the briefing by the NECC on its fourth quarter and non-financial performance, including the timeshare briefing. Ms. Mabuza proceeded with the briefing, Chair. 2.2 captures the issues highlighted during deliberations, Chair. Go down. The meeting adjourned at 11:39 until Tuesday, the 30th of May.
Thank you, members. Can we have moved and seconded for the adoption of these minutes of the 24th of May?
Ms. Moatse, Chair.
Honorable Moatse.
Thank you, Chairperson. I move for adoption of the minutes.
Thank you very much. Honorable Malamacha.
Thank you, Chair. I stand to second the move of the adoption of the minutes.
Thank you very much. Minutes are duly adopted. The minutes of the 24th of May. Next set of minutes.
The next set of minutes is the 30th of May, June. We receive a briefing by the NCR, the National Credit Regulator, the National Credit Tribunal, and the DTIC on the existing debt review system and challenges in this regard. We also consider the first draft of the DTIC's third quarter financial and non-financial performance for the 22-23 financial year. Good on. Chair, we had an apology from Mr. Bergman. Number 1 is just a basic introduction. Chair, then we were briefed by Mr. Lahodi, Ms. Gilbert, and Ms. Alva on the existing debt review system and challenges being experienced with the system. 2.2 highlights the issues that were raised during deliberations, Chair. We go down. Then we considered the first draft of the DTIC's third quarter financial and non-financial performance report, Chair. Chair 3.4 takes us through the submissions by the ANC for what was considered by the committee, and which included the recommendation. The committee resolved that they will formally consider the report at its next meeting. That will afford other parties to opportunity to submit any additional conclusions or recommendations for consideration. The meeting adjourned at 11:39 until Wednesday, the 31st. Chair. Mr. Mbuyani, raise his hand, Chair.
Honorable Mbuyani.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I propose that we adopt the minutes as the true reflection of our deliberation on the said day. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Is there a seconder? Oh, I see these two. Honorable Malamacha.
Thank you, Chair. I stand to second the proposal by Honorable Mbuyane that we adopt the minutes as true reflection of what transpired on that day. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the other hands are down. Is there more minutes, Secretary?
There's one set of minutes, 31st of May, Chair.
Okay.
Chair, on this day, we received a briefing by the Companies Tribunal on its 2023-24 strategic and performance plans. We also formally considered the third quarter financial and non-financial performance report of the DTIC. Chair, we go down. I think we had a full no, I don't know if there's an apology. No, I don't think so. No, everybody was present on the day. Chair, Judge Davis, together with Ms. Lindengwana, proceeded to brief the committee on the strategic and performance plans of the Companies Tribunal. 2.2 captures the issues raised in deliberations. If we go down, Chair. And more go. Chair, then we submitted the report for formal consideration. Mr. Mbiani, seconded by Mr. Malamatia, move for the adoption of the report. Agreed, Chair. And the meeting adjourned at 10:43 until today, 7th of June.
Thank you very much. That's the minutes of the 31st of May. Can we have a move in a second? Honorable Monakedi, I see you are unmuted.
Okay, thank you, Chair. May I move for the adoption of the minutes as presented?
Thank you very much. Honorable Mbiani.
Chairperson, thank you very much. I second that we adopt the minutes as a true reflection of our engagement. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any further minutes?
That's the minutes for we're on update with our minutes, Chair. The only minutes outstanding will be today and next week's minutes, Chair.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any announcements?
Chair, we just in terms of next week, Chair, we are scheduled to meet on the 13th. We will receive a briefing on grey listing. As well as the fourth quarter financial and non-financial performance of the DTIC, and we also will get a presentation progress regarding the implementation of recommendations of this Zondo Commission in the state capture report, and we will consider the first draft of our overseas study tour report, Chair.
Okay. Thank you. With no further announcements, thank you very much. We'll see each other in the house or on the virtual platform today as our cluster is answering questions today. Thank you very much, members. Until we meet again, the meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, Chair.
Chair.